Good morning, fellow art people. Hope you're doing well. So today we're moving on to Zentangle Day 6, and got 3 new patterns for us. They're pretty interesting, and let's jump into it. So, as always, you're going to need to grab your journal, and you're going to need to create a space to create your Zentangle pattern. I'm going to go to a fresh page here. And what I've done is I've drawn 4 dots, maybe hard to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are going to be the corners of my shape that I'm going to make. And the shape, it doesn't necessarily have to be defined to these corners, but it's a great place to start. What we're going to imagine is that there's a string kind of laying down over these spaces. And we're going to let that just become the outside. This is supposed to be very fluid. I know that may be difficult to see, but I'm using a pencil so that I can always erase if I feel like I've messed up. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine there's another piece of string. Just kind of following through, making a shape, right? And this is going to become the outline or the sections that I'm going to work in to create my Zentangle. All right. So, as always, to get started, you're going to need a pencil. You're going to need a black pen or something similar, and you may even need a black marker. All right. And those are all the things you're going to need to get started today. So, let's move into learning our new patterns. And yeah, hopefully these are pretty interesting. All right, set our book outside. Okay. Now, the first pattern of today is called Amaze. And Amaze is a maze, which is like one of the first words that makes sense, because I know all these terms are kind of interesting. So let's imagine we have a space within our card here. This is just a random shape. I just drew it. The way a maze works is we're going to create a line that just moves on and on and on kind of forever. It's one line, but it crisscrosses, zags, weaves, and just kind of moves around within itself. So I'm just going to pick a place to start. You can start in the middle, you can start at the edge. It really doesn't matter. The only really rule here is you're going to make sure you don't ever cross back over the line. And if you need to make a second line because you work yourself into a hole, that's okay. No one will probably know anyways. So do you see how it kind of like went up and then came back down on itself? Then I'm going to kind of hug the edge here. And really it's just kind of this doing. I kind of do like squiggly lines mixed with kind of finger-like lines. And I want this to be kind of wiggly. I know that's a funny term. I'm doing these with a bit of space in between, just for clarity's sake. But you know, you can make these super tight if you'd like. It's really up to you. And I'm not doing this in pencil first, but you may if you're not comfortable. It's very easy also when you do this to get caught in a space. For example, if I'd taken this line across, like over this way, I would be trapped kind of in this area because I shouldn't be crossing back over myself. So you notice how I'm hitting this edge, this outside line, and I'm just stopping. So when we're done with this guy, we're going to erase the outside, and we're going to let these kind of wiggly lines make the edges of this shape. And you may notice my lines got a little thicker as I was pressing down a little heavier on my marker here. And that happens. We call that line variation. And that's okay. Now the kind of beauty of this one is It's a bit erratic, so it's really fun to draw. This surprisingly has become one of my favorite patterns. It's kind of one of my go-tos. I know a few of you used kind of the same patterns, like kind of like over and over again to fill spaces, and that's definitely okay. All right, so now I've got this little section left, and I can either end it on the outside or end it on the inside. I'm going to choose to end it on the inside. So I'm going to kind of wiggle out, and then I'm just going to stop. And there's Amaze. And again, once I'm done, I used a marker, so it's still a little wet here. But I'll just erase my pencil line. And this new pattern will show the contours of that shape. And there's not really shading in this one. You can. I've actually because of like this is just one line. You could actually like color on the inside of a line and kind of just follow it around, and you'd be surprised where it takes you. But yeah, you don't really have to shade here. This is the pattern. It's pretty neat though. This is Amaze. Hope you like this one. And again, I've shown you the pattern here. So now move to your sketchbook and put it in one of those spaces. So this shape here would be perfect for a space like this, right? But I could fill any of these spaces with Amaze. Let's see if I have. I will show. See, this is like back in, right? Any of these spaces, right, can be Amaze. All right. So, all right, on to the next pattern, which is called Mooka. Now, be warned, this one can be a little complicated. I kind of like to use this one as a starting point for a card. It works really well in a corner, like you have your two lines kind of coming in. This would be where your dot is right here. But this is also a one-line pattern, and the way it works is you kind of like create like a hook shape. You come back in, you hook underneath, you come back in, you hook underneath, you come back in, and you kind of stop when you can't make it any smaller. So you could start by making this very large if you'd like. So this pencil line is the edge of my Zentangle card, but because I did it in pencil, I can kind of go outside of it a bit, and I can create this hook shape. I'm going to curve it off a bit. Alright, so I kind of got a big line that comes out, right? Then it's going to come back around towards the center here. So around, around, around towards the center, right? Now I'm going to come back up on the other side. So I'll kind of make this curve shape again. I'm going to hook underneath, make another of these little like finger shapes, right? Come back down towards the center again, yeah. Rinse and repeat. Hook up, underneath, hook down, and you can make them smaller as you go in further and further if you'd like. Or you can, keep this space pretty static, pretty same. I'm getting to a point here where, like, it's going to be difficult to go underneath because we're kind of all the same shape here. This is why I do it in pencil. This way I can adjust things before I go in with the pen. All right. Now here, when it's going to be difficult to fit another space in here, so I'm just going to stop, right? And I want you to notice, so like this is like the corner of my card, like I was talking about. I have this one going outside of the card edge. I can erase that for consistency. But then it's just kind of open over here. And what you can do with this Mooka pattern is you can make like smaller ones to fill spaces if you'd like. So I'm not going to touch this line because I want this one to be separate. But I may come in here. I again, I'm trying to just fill the space to make it look aesthetic. All right, I'm going to make a hook this way. I'm going to bring it back to this point. Right, I'm going to come up, make a hook there, and then I just kind of stop it. So it is a lot simpler, these smaller ones, but this is a way you can use it to fill a space. Right, so I like to think of patterns like the Mooka as like accent pieces because they're large and they kind of like take over a space. So now that I have it penciled out, I'm definitely going to move over to my pen or my marker. I got a little marker here. I had a student ask me just this week, Mr. A, you just like go for it, no regrets. And I was like, hey, if I mess up, I mess up. You know, we get caught thinking everything has to be so perfect, right? But really, art's about making mistakes, and it's learning how to fix those mistakes where actual art making takes place. And that is the true power of an artist. So you see how that just kind of stops there. It almost looks natural. You may have noticed too, like the Amaze one was one line, and this shape here is also one line. So there's this kind of the theme of the week. Kind of using one line. I'm going a little thicker here, just so I can get my shape the way I want it, which I guess that was a little thicker over here too. I just want to make sure this really stands out. So I'm going over my lines, making sure where they touch and connect is really smooth. It's the details that get us. A lot of people think big picture, the whole big thing gotta look good. That's all that matters. When it's the small little things that matter. Because if you pay attention to these little things, you know, being nice and curved off and smooth in the moment, in the now, you don't have to go back and fix them later. The whole thing will be nice and clean already. So if you focus on the small stuff now, the big stuff will come into focus. That's true for life too. When you fix a lot of little things, it equals up to some large things. And there we are. So yeah, Mooka. Now, this one you can shade a bit. I kind of almost think of this one almost floral-like. So, especially areas where these things connect and touch in, I may definitely want to kind of add some value in here. Remember, so I'm doing this with a marker just so it shows up a little better. But definitely you would do this with a pencil. You'd put a little graphite down and then you'd kind of smear it up. Do the same thing over here. My poor little marker. Right, and then we're going to kind of like fade it out a bit. Just kind of fade it out. I might come in here too. Just kind of fade it out. Gonna have to get me a new gray marker, friends. Just a little bit there. Yeah, so see, now it looks like things have kind of come to a point, right? Like there's a little shadow here. And to help kind of push that even further, I could come in, once I kind of get like a nice little gray wash here, and come in and just kind of darken in some of the parts as it gets closer to the center. Just a little bit. This marker's working a little better. Yeah, kind of like that. So, just kind of shading it in, making it a little darker, really connecting things, making it look nice and cohesive. So yeah, so when I would think of a card like this, I would go back to my original drawing, and I may put it in an area, kind of in a corner, like I was saying, and let it cross over into another area. And if you got spaces above or beside, you can add these little sections, these little extra, almost like how when plants grow, these little like side buds kind of pop off where like new flowers are going to be or new leaves are going to be. And this is very much the same thing. Oh, I forgot to. Make sure you go back and erase your pencil lines on the outside. I know it just went over shading. Don't erase all your shading lines. But your pencil lines that were kind of on your tendrils in the open area, make sure you erase those. All right. Let me see. I smear my marker a little bit, but you know what? It's okay. All right. And there's one more pattern today, and this one is like deceptively easy, actually. These are little like petals, almost like it's an ivy or a succulent of some kind. And these actually are just little teardrops. That's kind of all it is, and they stack upon one another. All right. This is not super difficult to draw. What I actually found to kind of like hack this a little bit is this can be a really good pattern to fill a space, but it can also be a really good pattern to go around something. So like if I had a line here and I had patterns on this side and patterns on this side, this could be that line. I could use it as like a chain of these little petals. Or I can make it an accent piece. I'm drawing it here with small kind of petals, but you can make these petals as large as you want, so it could really fill a space if you'd like. I think I'm gonna do like just a gentle curve here, just to kind of show you the process. And this is kind of how it works. Once you kind of have a line, and I know there's not a line here, but again, this is what I found works the best. You're just going to kind of pull up and then pull back down. So it looks like a little teardrop, just backwards. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now I have a little heart, right? And then I just kind of keep this going. I encourage you to do this with pencil first. Again, I fell in love with this one, so I've actually been using it a ton. And each of these is just like a little heart. It's like a little ivy. Right. Now, as I get close to the end of this thing, I'm gonna start to make them a little smaller. Just a little bit. A little smaller. And at the end, I'm just gonna put one final one like that. Right? So now I have this vine, all right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to add a little line and a dot. And this is going to kind of be where that little crease is in a leaf or a petal. Line, dot, line, dot, line, dot, line, dot, line, dot, little line, dot. And I'm trying to match the flow of that leaf. Like I can imagine it's going like there. Just put a little dot, right? And then in these little areas, they want you to kind of just like add some little circles to kind of fill in the space. And you can do this randomly. Like if you think that, hey, this gap is a little wider than I wanted it to be. You know what? I'm just gonna add a little flash here. A couple of these little circles. I don't know. Maybe this is some little fruits or berries that this thing is growing, right? maybe they're little seed pods or something, you know, and you just kind of randomly put them on. It doesn't have to be, you can make them big if you want to. There's a larger one. Just use them to fill space. Oh, that one's kind of odd shaped, but it's okay. Yeah. All right. Now, to shade this guy is pretty simple. What we're actually going to do is we're going to come in here lightly with our pencil and just kind of in along the line that we drew, kind of to match the shape of the petal. Right? So just I'm adding a little pencil in and then smearing it a bit, just a little bit up. Just a little. Doesn't need a whole lot. I was worried about my little marker, but it seems to be working okay now. That was weird. And if you're like me and you like to show a little more value, a little more depth here, all right, what I'm going to do is just on the very bottoms, I'm going to come in with my pencil again and go nice and dark. Not as dark as my marker lines, but just to add that little bit of shadow. Yeah, just that little bit of shadow. It really gives it a little oomph, if you ask me. All right, well, and again, you know, go in my book. I may use this. To like kind of follow this line like through, and I may even like modify this so it goes up and runs off the page here, right? And then because I did these three patterns, you know, Amaze, Mooka over here, you know, I got this like leafy pattern here. I have lots of space to use some of my previous patterns from days 1 through 5 to really make this a really cool piece of art. So I hope you enjoyed Amaze, Mooka, and Flux, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!